Hi loves, you're welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, you're welcome. Olivia here, and today I'm going to share with you how to make a basic corset. Any beginner can do this. It's really beginner friendly, and all you need is your bra cap. Meanwhile, it's more or less like a three-piece corset, right? The most important thing you need for this top, for this corset top, is your bra cap. Now, I want to give more explanation or detail on how you can get your bra cap, right? First, you know the bra size you want to use. Get your bust measurement, and then you add 2 inches to that bust measurement. All right, so in my case, my bust is 33 and a half, so let's just bring it down to 33. Okay, 33, so plus 2 is 35, right? And we don't have bust 35 in the market because it ranges like um how do I say it? It ranges like even numbers. So we have 32, we have 34, we have 30, 36, and then we have 38, 40 that way. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Do you get? In that case, you should get 36 bus 36, right? Now this this cap I'm holding is bus 32. I got bus 32 because my bust is not that big. So I was thinking that if I get a smaller size, it will be okay for me because I don't have a bigger breast. That was the intention I used when I went to the market. And then when I got home, I used it on my breast and I was like, the thing is small. So let me show you what I mean. So this is my breast, right? So I'm going to start from the under bust like this. And then I'll hold it this way. I'll hold it this way. I don't know if you can see, but my breast is from here like this to this place. I won't be able to wear this. In this video, I'm going to try my best to be able to make it go high a bit, and we'll be doing that. And also, that is why you are watching this video, to learn, right? So you should be able to get +2 of your bust measurement. Don't make the same mistake I did, unless you want your perfect, like you want it to be on you, and the style you are going for, the breast is supposed to pop out. Unless you are going for something like this, then you get your exact size. Okay, so that is it, and let's get into the tutorial. You will need your plastic bone, your bias, your hemming gum, your cap, and then your fabric. Okay, so I'm going to draft on the lining, and you're going to divide the widest part of your measurement. I used a height and I divided it into 4. So quarter of that plus 1 inch for sewing allowance. So that's the amount of fabric I folded. Okay, so mine is 8.5, and I added 1 inch for sewing allowance, so 9.5. This helps you to save fabric and not waste it. Okay, so this is it, and I'll measure the length of my top and add half an inch to that. So I'm going to measure from the shoulder line to the chest, to the nipple point, to the under bust, as well as my half length, and then my full length plus half an inch. Okay, so I just made a sketch of a basic bodice, and I'm going to mark half inch starting from the chest line. That's from the center, half inch, and then half inch here. And I'm going to put that into a straight line. This will serve as a guideline for the cap. So I'm going to grab my cap, and the end of the cap will start right on the under bust. Okay, and then the other side will also start from the half inch, just like the way I placed it. Okay, so you can leave it straight like this or curve it this way to have a sweetheart neckline. Do you get what I mean? So I'm going to put it back to the normal way I want mine. Remember, it starts from the underbust and away from the 1/2 inch on the center. Okay, so I'm going to pop the cap like this. I'm going to push it up a bit. Just watch, I'll push it up a bit like this. So I'll release it and then I'll push it up again like this. So I'm going to trace out the shape of the cap on the lining. You can as well do this directly on your fabric, it's the same thing. So I'll trace out the shape and then mark the ends of the cap. So this is it. Now we need an allowance to be able to join the cap to the top, because this is a freehand. So along the curved part of the cap, we'll go in by 1/2 inch throughout, and that 1/2 inch will serve as joining allowance. Okay, so I'll do that. Now on the chest line, I'm going to pick 1/4 of my bust and I'll add 1 inch sewing allowance. And on the waistline, 1/4 of my waist plus 1 inch for sewing allowance, as well as the end. You know, we use the exact measurement we need, so you can just leave it without measuring again, but for reference sake, 1/4 of my hip plus 1 inch, you see. So I'll just connect them together. We are not going to add that to this top because it's not really needed. Okay, so I'm going to go up by 1.5 at the edge like this, and then I'll use my curve to just curve the edge this way, because this is the shape I'm going for. You can as well use a straight ruler to make a straight line like this. Just slant it to the center this way, if that's the style you're going for. Okay, now let's move to the cap before we come back here. I'm going to fold the lining into 4 equal parts like this, and we'll have the center, right? So I'm going to fold the cap like this with the center of the cap on the center of the lining this way. We are doing everything freehand. Okay, so I'm going to place it this way and trace out the shape of the cap. So afterwards, the next thing to do is to add 1/2 inch around that part, you know, but I said earlier that I want to increase the length of the cap so that it will cover my breast well. So instead of 1/2 inch throughout, I'm going to do 1.5 inch. Okay, so if you are going for the exact shape of the cap, all you have to do is to mark 1/2 inch round. So I'm going to mark 1/2 inch this way, and away from the pointed part of the cap this way, I'm going to mark 1 inch this way, just 1 inch. Yeah, and then you blend that 1 inch to the 1/2 inch, go in by 1 inch and blend the 1/2 inch to the 1 inch. Then you connect that 1 inch to this side like this. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to remove the cap so you can see the shape well. So this is it. So since we are doing a 3-piece corset, from the top this way, I'll come down by 3 inches. If you have a bigger bust, you do 3.5. So by the time I stitch 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, I'll have 2 inches left at the top. Okay, so this is where the cap is, and this is the extension and the allowance we added. So for better understanding, I decided to draft this on a paper so I can explain for you to see well. Okay, so this is where we ended. The cap will be this way. You trace out the shape of the cap, and I believe that's where we ended, and then you mark the 1/2 inch allowance. The next thing now is to assume the shape of the cap. That's the upper part of the cap. Now we have to add allowance to the top part to be able to neaten the edge of the cap. Okay, so what you have to do is to add 1/2 inch. Just follow the shape, the assumed shape you made, and just mark 1/2 inch to the end. Now because I want to extend the length of the cap, it has to also reflect on this pattern. Okay, so the same allowance you used whilst making or drawing out the shape of the cap should be the same allowance you add to the pattern or your fabric. Okay, so I'm going to do that this way. Whilst joining, they will correspond. Okay, so this is how the cap looks now. This is the extension. Okay, and if you don't want the extension, the only thing you have to do is to follow the first marking. That's the 1/2 inch allowance, and you are good to go. So now I extend the lines this way. So remember to follow this first line, which is the allowance, if you want the real shape of the cap. Okay, don't get confused. So I'll go ahead and cut out, and I'll cut from the 1/2 inch allowance like this. So now back to our lining. I've done the same thing on the lining. So the next thing is to just cut out. So I'll place the front onto another lining to cut the back, and I'm going to trace out the ends of the front. Okay, so that's the end of the front. At the top, I'll square up the line. That's the upper part of the front. So now I'll cut out, and now we have our back. As easy as that. Now I'll come down from the center back by 1.5 and connect from the side to the center back to have a slant at the back. You can keep it straight as well. Now because we'll be adding grommet to the back, or eyelet as some say, I'll take some few inches off the back. That's about 1.75. Okay, so I'll connect them together, and then at the lower part of the back, I'll come up by 1/2 inch and connect this way, because I want the back to be a bit shorter than the front. So I'll go ahead and cut away from the line, and that will serve as a sewing allowance. Okay, so yeah, that's it for the back. So now I'll cut out the allowance for the front now. So I'll cut out the fabric. I'll use the lining to cut out the main piece. And for the cap, the same way I did for the lining, I'll do the same thing for the main piece. Fold it into 4 equal parts, having a folded part like this, and I'll place it on it and cut out. Now after this, then I'll go ahead and cut out the 3-piece part this way. That's the 3 inches we came down with. So I'll go ahead and iron interfacing on all the parts, both the lining and the main piece. I'll also notch the center. So this is after ironing the interfacing on all the parts, and we are going to stitch the caps. Okay, so I'll grab one of the caps and stitch like a dart, but first I'll also notch here and I'll stitch like a dart like this. Do not start from the top of the cap, but start like a dart. So from the lower part, then you end at the midpoint. Okay, this is how it looks now. I'll stitch the bias on it like this. Please, this is an edited video, so take your time and stitch all the parts of the cap. So I'll go ahead and join the upper one to the lower one with the help of the notch. Then I'll stitch with 1/2 inch allowance. Remember to take your time, please. So I'll go ahead and cut off the excess. Then I'll also notch so that it will lay well while stitching the bias on it. So I'll go ahead and add the bias along the seam line like this to the end. So this is what we have now. You give it a good press. The next thing now is to put the cap inside. I'll fold it equally like this so that the center part will align, just like this, and then I'll go ahead and pin it down. Then this way I can play with the excess of the fabric and then pin them down, and then I'll stitch the edge of the cap together with the fabric. Then afterwards I'll cut off the excess just by following the shape. Please make sure after cutting the excess you do the same thing on the lining, okay? Otherwise you have a lot of excess on the lining. So this is how it looks. I'll give it a very good press, and then I'll repeat the same thing for the other cap. So this is what we have. I'll join the sides of the main piece, and then I'll join with 1 inch allowance. Okay, I'll repeat the same thing on the lining. So this is what we have. Now I've also notched the sides so that it will lay flat. Next, we'll stitch the bias onto the main piece, and before that we need to mark our lines. So from the center of the top to the center of the lower part, I'll draw a straight line like this, and from that center I'll fold it this way, and following the side, that's the side, following the side, I'll place the center on the side like this. This way I'll be able to get the center of the cap side and notch it. This will help me while stitching the cap together. So I'll go 1 inch on both sides after the center, and I'll connect that to the center of the round cap, if that makes sense. Okay, I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. So whatever you do at one side should be repeated on the other side, and there is no rule to these lines. You do what you feel like doing, unless you are following an inspiration or a style. Okay, you are following a particular style, so there is no rule to this. Just make sure the same thing you have at one side is on the other side, so you don't have anything funny going on. So this is after I've made few of the bias. So I'll go ahead and show you how I stitch the bias. So I'll start from the center. I'll place the bias on the center of the front like this. Then I'll go ahead and stitch. I'll do the same thing to the other sides. I'll repeat it this way. Now on one side of the center back, I'm going to go in by 1 inch like this. And I'll go ahead and place the bias like this on it. The allowance before the bias is going to serve as a sewing allowance with the lining. I've gone ahead to attach one of the caps, and I'm going to show you how I'll do the second one. Okay, so you can see the extension. So I'm going to fold the cap equally like this and notch the center. I'll repeat the same thing like this. Even though we've notched, we have to transfer it to the front because of the bias, so that we can see it at the front. So this is how it looks. Now before that, I'm going to notch around the shape like this, just cut off 1 inch. Okay, just cut off 1 inch, because the edge of the cap is about 1/4. So do not go beyond that. Okay, I just notch it. This helps you to attach the cap without any struggle. Okay, so the center of the cap to the center of the front shape like this, and then I'll now follow. You see the way it just went straight without any struggle? So that is the reason for the notching. Okay, so I'm going to pin it this way. If you tend to have any little excess, it's fine. All you have to do is to trim off that excess, but make sure you don't stretch the notch part. This is just going to help you to attach easily. Okay, if you stretch, you have small lines. All right, so I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll stitch. Make sure you take your time and stitch, and while stitching you realize that I'm pulling excess to the back. Okay, just make sure you pull the excess while stitching. Watch out for any excess so that you don't stitch on any part of the fabric except the joining part. Okay, so pull away and stitch. Watch out beneath the cap, watch out for any excess. So you can see that I have a little excess somewhere. Hopefully you can see it. So I'm going to fold the top like this, and I'll pin it down. So I'm going to go down this way, This is how I want it now. So I'm just going to go down this way and shape it, and then I'll trim off the excess, and whatever I do, I'll repeat it on the lining so that the lining does not have any excess as well. Okay, so now the next thing now is to fix the bone. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that. So I'll pick the bone, and then what I like to do is to melt the edge, not too much, just to prevent the edge from hurting. So I'll allow it to cool a bit, and I'll insert it through the channel like this. And then afterwards, I'm going to pull out the excess like this and cut few of the parts out, because you'll be joining the lower part, so you need to have an allowance about 1/2 inch, and then I'll bend the edge of the lower part as well. So make sure you bend the edge, or you can use a sandpaper or a file. So whatever you are doing at the lower part by leaving excess, make sure you leave it at the upper part, because you'll be joining the lining to the upper part as well. You can as well join the lining before you add the bone. Okay, just do what works for you. Okay, and also leave allowance at the lower part. So I'll go ahead and pin the neckline of the lining together with the main piece. And then afterwards I'll join them together. While joining, I'll add hemming gum to the edge. That's while stitching, and I'm going to stitch 1/2 inch throughout. I'll trim off the excess and also notch. I'll go ahead and understitch. From the lower part, you mark your joining allowance that you've left. This way you join easily. Okay, now I'll place both edges together. That's the main piece and the lining, center to center, that's center of the lining to the center of the main piece, side seams to side seam. I'll go ahead and join. Whilst joining, I'll add a hemming gum. So this is how it looks. I'll trim off the excess and also notch. This place we are not going to understitch, so the hemming gum will help to stick them together, and also the notch will help them lay well. Okay, I've stitched one side of the edge and the other side is left open to be able to turn inside out, so I'll go ahead and do that. So this is how it looks at one end. On the other end, I'll fold in the excess, that's the allowance I stitch on the other one. I'll fold it in this way, and then I'll stitch. So the stitch I make here, I'll make it here as well, so that they will be even. All right, so while joining the lower part, I use a zipper foot, okay, because of the edge. And the reason why I used it is because of the bone. Okay, with a zipper foot, it will flow well with the bone and you wouldn't feel any stress. But the normal foot, will work on the bone, which is stressful. So I'll go ahead and iron both the top and the lower part of this top. I'll go ahead and attach the grommet, but before that I'm going to mark how I want it to be fixed, and I'll create the holes with a soldering iron, and then afterwards I'll go ahead and fix the grommet. I have a tutorial on that. I'll put the link in the description box. So this is how it looks like. Guys, I hope you've learned something from this video, and let me know what you think in the comment section. Share your thoughts and ideas with me. I'll be glad to answer. And click on the subscribe button if you are yet to subscribe to this channel. Like this video if it was helpful, and turn on your post notification bell so anytime I upload a new video you'll be notified. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.